Hi, everybody. Let's make sure everything's going. Oh, wow. 12:20 here. 12:20. Can you believe it? Okay. Let's see if everything's working and we can get started. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. So we are on day 1918 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room and taken to the arms room, and it's a soundproof room. It's a soundproof room. That's why it's so important in all of this. And of course, remember the seal and all of that we have. Um, and his life was taken from him, and then his body was stolen off of Fort Bliss, um, and dismembered and taken to. Well, the thing is it was dumped. And as the case got a little serious, we're getting word that they found the remains and trafficked them to Mexico. So he was trafficked to Mexico, his remains. There was fraud, a lot of fraud, a lot of fraud with the funeral business and, of course, mortuary operations, because there was a lot of money to be made with the VA benefits, death benefits. There was money to be made with humanitarian aid for unidentified migrants. All you had to do was have a complicit or corrupt medical examiner and a corrupt county judge and a corrupt um, county clerk, the one that puts the stamps on the death certificates and that. And then you could, claim a body, a certain name, and then claim it as another name and claim it as another name. And, recycle the bodies for humanitarian aid, for COVID, um, because they were saying that there needed to be extra care if someone died of COVID. Um, so more money for that, and just a lot of fraud there, a lot of fraud, and that explains why we have three autopsy numbers. Three autopsies for Richard. It explains, and there's lots of reports, lots of reports, that really corroborates our suspicions that there was fraud, that there was impersonation of our family. That's why they never contacted our family, and that's why they just thought that they could operate behind with impunity, or they could mislead us with the CONUS Dust One, while they were doing all this fraud behind. And they also had this Arctic frost, right? They had this Arctic frost, which the FBI, the intelligence community, working in conjunction with DPS, with Director Jose Sanchez, with the FBI, with CID, with Borstar, with the Borstar and Bortak. Um, and, I wonder if Trooper Brookshire was part of that, right? Or even Gustavo Sanchez was part of that. Because the DPS was absolutely part of that. Uh, and more and more information is coming out about the Arctic frost. And then of course we had this arrest of Mario Ortiz. Really, it's Mario Alberto Ortiz, not to be confused with the illegitimate, illegally in this country, chief medical examiner that gets paid about a $500,000 a year. Illegal. He's an illegal in this country. That makes him very susceptible to fraud. Because if you need a medical examiner to pull all of this fraud off when you're talking about funeral fraud and mortuary fraud and covering up murders and all of this stuff, right? You need to have a very compromised medical examiner, and that's what you have. That's what you have in El Paso. And his name is Mario Alberto Rascon Ortiz. So Mario Alberto Ortiz, Saroldi. Don't confuse the two. Maybe maybe they have some connections there. With that kind of name connection. But don't confuse them. One is a lawyer. One is a lawyer that really pimping, really up to no good with the trafficking of the Cubans, exploiting them sexually. It's just outrageous, absolutely outrageous. But the connections with uh, other people that are involved in this can't be mistaken. Okay, and it really proves, and that's all going to come out. Why are people attacking us, right? They're not attacking a Gold Star family just because you know we rubbed them the wrong way or something, right? That's not why they're attacking us. They have a lot to lose and they've been involved in this. They're deep in this for a long time. And that all, as they go through all the addresses and phone numbers and connections and our letters, our filings, today we filed five major um, letters. It just, we're working very, very hard behind the scenes, and these letters were so major because it really connects all of this what we're saying. And I haven't even touched on that whole Arctic frost yet, trying to get our brains around it. But I can tell you, because we don't think the way they think. We don't think the way they think. They are absolutely have no problem with deception. They are the deep state. They are absolutely the deep state. You cannot have this this kind of infiltration without being a deep state, okay? I mean, the sheer uh, fact that they are in their positions doing what they're doing, the sheer fact that General John Francis Kelly abandoned everything that his uniform symbolizes, everything that the stars on his uniform symbolizes. He totally abandoned everything and went to work for the very criminal FTOs that he had sworn to fight against. He was Southcom commander. He was he was the Department of Homeland Security. When you and to have him be over there, okay, be in the office with the Sinaloa cartel, the El Chapitos faction of the FTO, with Maru Campos, which is part of that faction, with Cesar Peneche, which is part of that. faction. And don't forget, he was siphoning billions of barrels of oil from Pemex, so he was not even loyal to Mexico. Okay? He was not even loyal to Mexico because Pemex is is Mexico. It is a national oil pipeline, and he was siphoning for his own enrichment. So these are all people that are imposters. They say, "Oh yes, we'll take an oath. Oh yes, we'll get into the AG," because they are groomed to do that because they are part of the deep state. They are groomed. Cesar Paneche got his position because of Alejandro de la Vega Foster and Paul Foster and Woody Hunt brought him in from Mexico to that position. The same thing with General John Kelly. It was Alejandra de la Vega, and you can look her up. She was, Secretary of the Economy, Secretary of something in economy, right? Um, she was a foreign agent also because she's an American citizen. She lives over in the United States. She wants all the benefits of the United States and the safety of the United States and the banking of the United States. But she went and worked for the very FTO. You have to understand the El Chapitos faction. Well, the Sinaloa cartel is an FTO. Okay. And you know what T stands for? That's what she went to work for. She went to participate in that as a foreign agent and said, "Hey, I know my buddy. I know my buddy would be a great security advisor. He's a good security advisor. He was in charge of the White House. He was DHS. He's a general of Southcom." And Paul Foster's like, "Oh, yeah, we recommend him too." And Woody Hunt's like, "Oh, yeah, and I recommend him too." And that is how General Kelly got into the governor's office, into the inner circles, from the inner circle of the White House to the inner circle of an FTO. And that does not happen without Jose Sanchez, the director of DPS, being either totally worried about Danielle's dress or totally complicit. And I think that he was complicit because you don't see Danielle's fleet with so many disabled veteran license plates, which I just posted. Um, and, you know, and you have pillow talk with the director of DPS for that whole border region, the top cop for the whole border region. And he doesn't know about Cesar Pinicha. He doesn't know about I mean, he has to know about General Kelly because General Kelly was Southcom. Uh, General Kelly was DHS. Look, there's no way that, this is so important for everyone to know. It is so important that we risk coming on every day to talk about this, to make, you call them memes, the pictures to help you put faces, to help you understand what's going on here. because there has to be, this is, I think, the first time ever in U.S. history that the deep state is being revealed and challenged. And they are, look, with Artic Frost, they were there in the FBI office in San Antonio, which has authority over the FBI office of El Paso, over the CID, over Borstar, who had a positive hit on our son's remains. And they kept that from us. They kept that from us. That's, come on, that overlaps with Artic Frost. And Artic Frost was doing their thing big time. And when they were, tapping in to get information from any kind of Republican senator, Republican congressperson, um, tapping into all kinds of metadata or whatever they want to call it, to hear how are they going to respond to Richard's case, which is intertwined with the Walmart mass shooting case, which is intertwined with um, election tampering, which they absolutely, which is interwoven with January 6th. They wanted that border open and they were willing to do anything for it. Anything for it. They wanted that border open. And what happened in March 2021? They opened it through Fort Bliss with turbo speed force. 500,000 children trafficked on taxpayer dime, American taxpayer dime, and humanitarian. A lot of, remember with the Walmart, a lot of people willingly gave money. Their hearts ached for families. But when you find out that David Johnson was one of the victims, lived on the same street as Ernest, just right, they were neighbors, y'all. With Ernest Christopher Grant, who was just recently arrested again, total criminal, that, put out the false narrative. And then who killed Alexander Gerhard Hofmann? Who killed Maria Eugenia Lavarot Roth? Who killed her really? Because the videos that we have now, the evidence that we have now, the video of Patrick Crusius approaching, who they say is Patrick Crusius, it's a little, I don't believe even that. Because his gait, the way he's walking, it's off, right? Compared to inside the building. You've got the guy on the outside that's approaching Maria Eugenia. Maria Eugenia was shot close range in the head. The video doesn't show that. When you have the inside of the Walmart, as Patrick Crusius is walking by, coming into, there's nobody there. It's like it already happened before. The shooting already happened. That's what the video looks like. The shooting already happened before he even walked through. Because you had the Unchandos already down, and he's walking towards them with his, like, he's skipping. It's almost like he's, like, I don't know, in a game or something. Of course, he has autism. Of course, he has other mental health um, issues, conditions. And, he didn't pass kindergarten. He didn't start speaking until he was 6. He can't tie a shoe at 18. A lot of problems there, right? He's blind without his glasses. A lot of problems. So he's walking like that, right? Like who he is. And he's walking towards the Anchano. The Anchanos are already down. There's no baby in sight, right? The baby had been taken out. We've got the video of the baby, the man taking the baby out. Um, and then, and where are all the other victims? Where are all the chaos? Where is evidence of the chaos? And so you have all of these questions, and the narrative doesn't add up. It doesn't answer the questions, the narrative that they put out. And when you have the other witnesses that talk about multiple shooters and all of that, and then they bury it, and it's like, is that Arctic frost? Is that Arctic frost working, bearing, finding all this metadata? What about people talking about it in social media? Are they blocking that? Are they not so much blocking it, but shadow banning it? I know that we've been shadow banned. That's why we're very appreciative when you share anything, because I know we've been shadow banned. Um, it's really, this whole thing with Arctic frost. If you don't think that Richard's case with the Walmart, with the everything going on in the borderland, El Paso borderland, wasn't a main focus of it, you're wrong. Because guess who was leading it? San Antonio. Aaron Tapp, right? Aaron Tapp. Wowzer. Wowzer. Again, again, just look into who these people are, and you see this common denominator. You see this common denominator. And the big news that we want to tell you today is that General Kelly with DPS Director Jose Sanchez with Nadal Baim, right? With Nadal Baim. These are big players with big connections in all of this, that they absolutely, there's no doubt that they manipulated the case, they tampered with the case, they didn't want us to find out anything about Richard. They wanted to give us a false narrative. And they're inside the CID, they're inside the FBI. So then they put out these reports, right? They put out these reports, and they're putting them out with a false narrative, with false information on them, or partial information, highly redacted, with no evidence. They have no what do you call them? Exhibits. They have no exhibits with them, right? So they highly redact. They have an outcome that they already have predetermined, and they manipulate the paperwork to reach that predetermined fake narrative. And now we know that paperwork was done maliciously from the inside. from the inside. And this is the operation. You can call it Arctic frost, but it's the deep state. Because to have that kind of power to tamper with investigations, to use our forms and our paperwork and our system to create a false story and false evidence or a false outcome, that's a deep state. That's a deep state. And that's why they're so angry at President Trump, because he wants a real country back. He wants a real country back. Now, and clearly he's up against the deep state. We saw that with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Clearly he's up against a deep state. Clearly Kash Patel is up against a deep state. Clearly the FBI has so many mutinous infiltrators. Clearly the DPS, even you've got the top cop. You've got Jose Sanchez. Clearly the deep state. Clearly. And I'm not just saying that from what I'm telling you. I'm telling you this because of everything that happened behind the scenes over the last over 5 years, and that has absolutely corroborated that he's compromised. He's compromised left and right, top to bottom, he all around. He is compromised. And now to know that he's compromised with General John Kelly, well, General John Kelly's actions are textbook treason. And when you've been in the military, Rob is a 30-year veteran. We have over 80 years in our family, right? In our immediate family of time in the military. This what General John Kelly's his actions are textbook treason. And he, for the good of our country, right? There has to be accountability. Because you cannot have somebody like John Kelly and people that are in the Marines, in the military, absolutely understand what we're saying here. We put all our trust into generals like John Kelly. We put our lives, our loved ones' lives, our country, everything we have in the hands, in the trust of General John Kelly. And for him to do what he has done, it is textbook treason. And it's abandoning everyone that put their trust in him, which is a lot of people that wanted to serve him as a leader, that would believe what he said in his reports, that in his orders, in his operational orders. And I could go on and on, because the military is not a democracy. He has those stars, and we trust him, and I know, as a wife, okay, I wasn't in the military, but when your a loved one is deployed, you're glued, at least I was, glued to what's going on. I remember with the Gulf War, I didn't even go to bed. I was on the couch. I slept on the couch. I watched everything. It was all televised. And, I'm just praying, praying, praying so that Rob would come home. Sound mind, sound body. Medics and PAs and that, they have very dangerous positions and they're always deployed. Always deployed. Chaplains, medics, they have very dangerous jobs in the military. And you don't think that a medic does, or, you've got to be on the line, right? Um, and when you have your leadership betray you like that, and I'm sure that the people of Texas, of El Paso, Texas, is absolutely disgusted with DPS Jose Sanchez. It's, you know, for Patrick Brookshire, Trooper Brookshire, to say, look, if he wants to go up his girlfriend's dress in the middle of a parking lot in the middle of the day while he's on duty, it's okay. I mean, really, that's what he was telling me. And I'm like, I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's okay. He's not some little trooper. He is the top cop. And when his girlfriend has a fleet of vehicles, about $1 million, unexplained wealth, with several of those vehicles, several of them having disability veteran license plates, and he's going for joyrides in them because the what is that one car? Geez, I don't know my cars really well. But that, what is it, $300,000? We were being very, very careful with our estimates. Um, so yeah, it is. When you have these kind of vehicles and you're going for joyrides and they have a disability veterans license plate on them, and it's like, oh, today we'll be in this car and next day we'll be in that car, and then you see another disability veterans. He's trained to look at license plates. He's trained to look at cars. He has access. Something is not right. Something is not right. It stinks to high heaven. And it's a betrayal of all the taxpayers and a betrayal of humanity, because all of that trafficking happened. 500,000 children. Come on, that's not like, oh, let's sneak in one or two kids. You're talking about a pipeline here. A pipeline of just 500,000 children in a short period of time. I think it's like 2021 to 2023. Um, Now come on. He- This, there needs to be accounting, and that's what we're getting. And we're seeing it because connected to all of them was Mario Ortiz, Zaroldi, this disgusting lawyer involved in trafficking, involved in the sex cult. I always said this is like a common denominator, this sex cult. They were just, everything was just unhinged. It was like the Satan crew got out there and hypnotized everybody's brain um, to be like insane. And all of that was happening during this whole COVID thing where there wasn't, people didn't travel too much. So, when you have these truckloads and you're having all this trafficking, and look, it is just absolutely obvious. And his response to us, his response to Richard's case is stinky, so stinky. And Trooper Brookshire's response to us is so stinky. He is unhinged. He's mad at us. Why is he mad at us? I think he's got a lot to lose. What was he doing in 2020? Where was he in 2020? What was he doing in 2021? Because his wife's family owns Dreams Cabaret, and Leilani Hart was getting her mail there. Her mail. What was Patrick Brookshire doing in 2020 and 2021 and 2022? That all of a sudden in 2025, he has to attack us? And he's a trooper? And he has to put everything on the line. He makes $100,000 a year being a trooper. He has to put all of that on the line. No, I think something's happening behind the scenes. And I think there's more to this story than just him trying to protect Sanchez. Director Sanchez was having a good time with his girlfriend in the parking lot, and why do you have a problem with that? I don't think that Brookshire cared too much that we cared about that. There's more to it. There's more to it. And for his friends, Esteban and Hernandez and his wife, to pipe in to all of that, to a Gold Star family, to attack us, when clearly, and to say lies, when we clearly have evidence. I did not buy Danielle her cars. She bought her cars. I did not go and get disability veterans benefits for those cars, those license plates. I didn't do that. She did that. She did that. I did not tell Jose Sanchez to, when he's on duty in his car that is taxpayer paid, and he's packing and all that, and to have his little lunch date with his girlfriend, and then in the middle of the parking lot in the middle of the day get photographed him going up her dress and whatever. I heard it was pretty bad. Now, you know, I didn't tell him to do that. He did that. He did that. And they are supposed to be public servants, and they are supposed to fight against the cartel infiltration, against crime. And by the results, they did the opposite on taxpayer dime. And then when we are not happy about it because our son is now sacrificed in the line of duty because he wasn't protected as a whistleblower, um, he's supposed to be married now. He could be married. He could have be on his first child. meaning, I hope I say this in the right way, but be married and have a child. He could be a private investigator, much better than that imposter, total imposter Phil Waters. It makes me sick to read his deception day in and day out that he puts out there. Not that I read it day in and day out, but he puts it out there day in and day out and profits on his deception. He's disgusting. He's a very, oh, he's a very, y'all, he's so bad. He's so bad. And we've got the receipts. Thank you, Laura, for coming out. The deception is so blatant. And when people attack us, it's not because of really something recent. It is because something's happening behind the scenes and they're feeling the heat. That's what's going on right now. And, that's why in 2023, a lot of things were going on with whistleblowers behind the scenes with our son's case. And that's why we were so attacked day in and day out. And is that connected to Arctic Frost? Was that paid for by Arctic Frost with, out of San Antonio, the FBI office, using DHS, using DPS, was Jose Sanchez part of that? Was he part of the Borstar? Was he, because that's his realm. And was he collaborating and conspiring with General John Kelly? Was General John Kelly blocking our out the DNA there in Mexico because Plenitude Crematorium? Was he tampering? And why would he care about a soldier? He, an army soldier. He's Marine. But he did. He did care. He cared a lot. And he was that connection, right, between San Antonio and the cartels. And not a connection in like fighting them. He went and joined them. So, yeah. It's it's all coming together, and it's because a lot of things behind the scenes are coming together, and we are in a vicious negotiation for the repatriation of our son's remains. That's where we're at right now. And I, and everything coming out is part of this. This arrest of this group is unraveling so much more, just like Plenitude Crematorium on the Juarez side, unraveling the Juarez side. Now you have this, and it's going to lead to Dreams Cabaret. You have this arrest of this lawyer with immigration. And, there's an immigration judge that's married to Veronica Escobar, whose duty it is to protect these migrants. And then they call us heartless when we say, no, you've got to leave. You've got to come in legally so that you're not under this kind of risk, this risk for being trafficked, for being exploited, for, just totally controlled in fear. No, those that want legal immigration were the humanitarians, okay? We're the humanitarians. Those that want illegal immigration, they want to exploit. 500,000 children. Where are they? Okay, the Trump administration has been looking for them. They found 36,000 so far, a little more than 36,000. We're talking about 500,000. And then we find out about the she-devil. Are you telling me that Jose Sanchez didn't know about the she-devil? It took me just a little bit of time to look her up and know that her family works for Beto O'Rourke. It just takes a little bit of time to look up Alejandra de la Vega Foster. It just takes a little time. And we were told to investigate our son's murder. And that's what we've done. And we filed it. And today was 5 big ones, y'all. 5 big letters. Letters. 5 big letters. And the other day it was 40 in each packet. Updating, reminding. It's takes thousands. It takes thousands of letters to get this done. And each time we send a letter, we send it certified. And it takes thousands of letters to get this done. And that seems overwhelming, right? We never even thought about it. We're just doing it. And it's like God has sustained us. God has made it possible. And we thank everybody, and especially, I know it's 1:00, and I should have started out saying Happy All Saints Day. We could not have gotten to where we are without you all. It's all the saints because we think different. We think different. We think about justice. We think about legacy. We think about family. We think about the future. We think about God. We fear God. Nothing else. God alone. And so we think differently. So, when we come together like this, it's just been absolutely made everything possible for us to get to this point, and we're not done yet, right? Um, a lot needs to happen still. So continue to pray, please. Continue to share. Continue to talk about this case, and we really appreciate all the stories that are coming in lately. Trying to get through them all. So thank you so much, and I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you. Bye bye.